G'day fishers, Brent from Tackle World Port Stephens with another weekly fishing report. And fortunately this weekend the weather's looking a little bit ordinary for the offshore fishing anyway. Strong northerlies, been blowing all day, all night, so it's going to be a little bit tough to try and get offshore Saturday. It's supposed to back off Saturday night with a few thunderstorms and go to the west-southwest on Sunday. So there might be opportunity Sunday morning to get out there and get amongst it, but I think the bay will be fishing really well with this weekend with the northerlies, and so too the beaches. And we've had plenty of reports this week of some really nice fish around. At the moment, we'll begin in the estuary. Some cracking flatheads still getting about, but you've got to fish that early morning, late afternoon for them, and especially the early morning before that northerly gets up. The flats have been fishing really well for flatties this time of year. Any of the flats around the back of Soldiers Point, Mary's Beach has been fishing pretty well there. Sunset Beach, right down towards the marina there. All those flats through there fishing really well, and out of the nor'easter as well. Likewise, back down towards Corlette. If you're lucky enough, Baggies Beach on that incoming tide might be okay, but I think the wind might get a little bit hurry up there. Worth a go though. Even Nelson Bay Beach, Little Beach, all the way through to Shoal Bay, fishing really well on the flatties. If you're boat-based, then I'd suggest probably heading over towards Jimmy's Beach this weekend. You'll get out of the northerly there. It'll be a great little spot. You get some good flatties there, whether you want to cast soft plastics or if you want to go the good old brine pilchard on a gang hook and slowly roll them, work really well, that's for sure. While you're over there, definitely fish for a whiting or two. There's been some cracking whiting inside the bay this week, and especially along Jimmy's. Get yourself some live beach worms. We've got plenty of live beach worms this weekend. They're like snakes, so you get plenty of baits out of each worm. Speaking of fresh bait, we've got fresh prawns in this weekend. We've got salted bonito, fillet salted pilchards. I'll keep going. So the fridge is stocked up, ready to go, and the freezers. So plenty of bait this weekend. So whiting on Jimmy's Beach. You could also try in a shortcut there. You'll get whiting around there. You'll get some brim around the shortcut wall there and some good flatties as well. Round in Pindima Bay might be worth a drift for the trumpeter whiting. And if you can get up on the high tide in the flats there and behind the mangroves, in behind the oyster racks there, I reckon you'll get onto some big whiting there too. If you are chasing the whiting on this side of the bay, then I'd suggest getting up the back of Soldiers Point there. That'll be the go. Or even Shoal Bay Beach, first light down there is been fishing well. In fact, we sent a few customers there this week and they're getting some absolute cracking whiting down there. So whiting and flatties on the chew. If you're interested, surface lures are working really well on the brim right up over the shallows there. Now the tides have sort of backed off a little bit. They're not as big. If you fish up around the rock walls and the oyster racks there on the surface lures, you'll do pretty good on the brim bows there. Some nice brim around at the moment since that recent rains flush it down, get a little bit of colour in the water. Brim have been going nuts there as well. A couple of jewies caught this week. I wouldn't say they'd be big fish, up around the 8-9 kilo mark, but still good fun on the jewies. Obviously the usual spots at the back of Middle Island there at Soldiers Point on that 28 metre ledge. I suggest drifting that. It's a little bit hard to anchor on that one, or I reckon drifting works a little bit better, especially if you've got a good electronics and a sounder. You can actually mark the bait and mark the arches, which will obviously be your jewies, and you just drift through there and you'll catch them pretty good. Fresh squids to go, or if you can get some live slimies, you'll do even better there, that's for sure. So that's the bay in a nutshell. A few chopper tail around, a few bonito there on the incoming tide, but mainly in the lower half of the bay. But I think they're a little bit scattered at the moment. There's more bonito offshore than in the bay, but that will change over coming weeks, that's for sure. So bay fishing well. Now the beaches, plenty of whiting on the beaches. The beach have been fishing really well. Fingal Spit right down to the Surf Club and even in Kitty's Corner. There's been plenty of whiting through Fingal there itself. You only got to fish light. You don't have to cast far. Just remember to just lob it in there over that little bit of a shore dump, and that's where the whiting are. So give that a crack. Samurai's been fishing pretty well too, so that'll be worth a go. I think 1 mile will be a blowout, and I think the northern end of Barubia will be the go. With this northerly this weekend, you can give it a go early if that northerly backs off, but definitely up the northern end of Barubia will fish better than further down at the moment. There has been plenty of whiting, even around the rocks there on Little Barubia Beach there. I spoke to Al. He's been nailing some absolute crackers hard up against the rocks. So you don't have to go too far. You don't have to go too far down the beach at the moment. You can walk down there if you want and find a nice gutter and find some whiting at the moment. So that's the beaches in a nutshell. Now, the offshore. Now, let's begin with some bottom species. Plenty of trag around at the moment. Spoke to Brad off Dr. Hook. He's been getting plenty of trag for his customers. Some really nice snapper actually mixed in amongst them. Saw some photos there. He sent me 4 or 5 kilo reds. He's been fishing that slightly deeper water as usual. That 40 to 50 metre program's been doing the job. But he said if you can get your hands on some little live slimies, it's definitely revving the trag up, and then the reds will move in there as well. It might be worth throwing the micro jigs. I know a lot of guys being into the micro jigging at the moment. We've got plenty in stock. Micro jigs doing pretty well. You do get a lot of bycatch, but you will get some quality fish on those 60 to 80 gram micro jigs around the reefs at the moment. There's plenty of bait on the reefs, and I think that's why the micro jigs are working pretty well. Down south as well, down off Boulder Bay Wide, Uralla, Tank Mark, all that area there's been fishing pretty well for trag. And the odd reds as well. So, further to the north, up on the Big Giver, there's been a mixture of species up there. There's been black marlin, and there's been trag, and there's been snapper, and those sorts of things up there. So you can have a sort of marlin fish and a bottom fish at the same time. Although I think that northerly wind's going to roll the water over. It's going to make it hard marlin fishing, and already has this week. I know a few boats that have ventured out, 1s and 2s on the black marlin, but said it's pretty tough at the moment because with those northerlies, brings that cold water, unfortunately. You just need that week of southeasters next week and it should all fire up. There's a few fish caught on the V. I know local boat Glaucus, they fished last Saturday on the V and absolutely smashed it. They went 6 from 9 black marlin in there. Next day, boats fished it, did it pretty tough there. So the inshore bite there, a little bit hit and miss at the moment. It's just because of the water quality at this point in time. Plenty of bait around, so it's all going to fire up at any tick of the clock. Now on the shelf, the current is absolutely humming. Believe it or not, water 27 degrees out on the edge there, so that's pretty warm. Some big dolphin fishing amongst it if you want to troll lures. Obviously you're going to go down sea pretty quick, but I think Sunday should be okay. Just be careful of that southerly against current. Might get a little bit gnarly, be worth trolling a few lures out there at the moment. I think you'll find that you'll get your big dolphin fish and you'll get a bite out of a blue marlin probably, and maybe some black marlin there. They don't mind the hot water, they travel through. That's probably what's going to be the best of it with that current running downhill. Wouldn't be surprised if you get a wahoo, so it might be worth packing a few larger deep diving minnows and you might come across a wahoo or two. Anyway, that's it for this weekend. We've got those sou'easters next week. I'm looking forward to that because it pushes the warm water on the inshore. You know what happens after that. Anyway, we'll speak next week.